afternoon, Colorado Mesa University, and welcome to a fresh season of Crossing the Line. My name's Matt Entrikin. To my left is Brian Kilman. How you doing today, buddy?
Good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing all right, Brian, it's a bleak day in the world of sports.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
So let's get on to our first topic of the day. It is, of course, the topic on everyone's minds. With the passing of Kobe Bryant last night, or I should say early morning, everybody's got a lot to say about it. Brian, what's your take? What do you think is the legacy of Kobe Bryant?
Legacy of Kobe Bryant. I think there's a lot of things Kobe did on the court. You know, we saw him. Everyone remembers when he put up 81 against Toronto. Everyone says, remember that? You see it every year. They say, this time, this day, he put up 81. And then, so there's a lot of things he did on the court, but I think ultimately his biggest legacy is what happened after he got off the court. He wrote a couple children's books. He made that short film called Dear Basketball, and he won the Emmy for that. But I think just his legacy as a family man, how he treated his daughters, and the way he acted in that capacity, I think that's what everyone will remember Kobe as.
I think Kobe, what personifies him most is the love and inspiration that fueled the hearts of millions of Americans all around the world, in every country. I used to hate Kobe Bryant, Brian. Especially back in 2009 and 2010 when he was playing for the Lakers, and he beat the Denver Nuggets, my favorite team, in the Western Conference Finals, and went on to beat the Celtics and break the hearts of fans all over the NBA. And of course, my brother and my dad were Boston Celtics fans, so I was rooting for them too. And he was just a guy that you hated. You hated to see him play your team because you knew he had a good chance of beating you any given day. But you hated him for the same reason that a lot of us hate people like Tom Brady, is that they've reached a level of domination that that if that person wasn't there, you wouldn't have to feel that pain that you were feeling after losing that championship. And now we have to feel that pain again, but in a far worse way. And another thing is, Brian, I didn't realize until hearing all the testimonials and all the stories from everyone around the NBA who knew Kobe Bryant, I didn't realize how much I wanted to be like Kobe Bryant as an athlete, sure, as a competitor, sure, but as a person, far, far more.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was a man who put his family in front of basketball. He made time for everyone, whether you were a teammate, whether you were a reporter, whether you were a young fan. He made time for you. He made everyone feel important. And he was a master of not just the art of basketball, but of the art of life too, doing what he did, publishing children's books and winning Academy Awards, and most importantly, teaching his young girls how to live life. And I think the important thing to remember about Kobe Bryant is that he had a legacy that didn't go untarnished, that was imperfect. With the incident that happened over a decade ago.
Sure.
And the important thing I think people need to remember is that it is very, very difficult to live a life that goes without shame, without embarrassment. We've all have our mistakes. We all have our weaknesses, but Kobe Bryant is not the sum of his weaknesses. He is the sum of the love and inspiration that he gave fans during his days in basketball, after his days in basketball, and undoubtedly beyond the grave.
Sure. I think they say the Mamba mentality. I think that's something that we'll remember with Kobe, because he was the 13th pick when he got drafted. Who would have thought Kobe Bryant got picked 13th? And imagine what the Charlotte Hornets would have been like if they hadn't agreed to trade that pick. They have had a long history of rough seasons with any number of things, but he came to the league and he said he wanted to be better than Michael Jordan. And everyone said, this kid's 17, that's high hopes. Michael Jordan's the best player I've ever seen, and he was sure as hell came close. He, the other night, LeBron passed him for third in the all-time points record, and last tweet Kobe ever sent out was something of a congratulations, LeBron. It said, "Keep doing what you're doing," and it's crazy to see that. Crazy to think one night Kobe's saying congrats, LeBron, and then everyone's talking about Kobe Saturday night because LeBron beat his record, and then Sunday morning you get the notification. But
still everyone talking about Kobe.
Still everyone's talking about Kobe. But he was a man who stayed in the gym 3 hours after the game and just shot the same shot 1,000 times in a row until he got it perfect. And that's what I think that personifies somewhat of the American dream. You don't have to let your past define your future. You can work through it. And Kobe might not have been the best player when he came to the league, but he put in work every single day. He didn't take a day off, and personified what basketball should be in this country.
Certainly not going to be outworked was Kobe Bryant. I think Jay Williams had a great story that he shared between him and Kobe Bryant. He said that he was going through a tough time in his career, and before one game during the season, he's playing Kobe Bryant in the Lakers, and so he wants to give a little extra that game, and so he gets to the gym early around 2:30, and who does he see shooting at the court is Kobe Bryant. And he sees him and he says Kobe's out there doing game-like moves. He's going 110%, and Jay Williams says he puts an hour 15 minutes in there, and then Jay Williams leaves, and they play the game that night. And after the game, Jay Williams goes to Kobe Bryant and says, "Man, where do you get your drive from?" And Kobe Bryant says, "Well, I saw you working in there, and I just wanted to let you know that you're not going to work harder than me."
Yeah.
I thought that was a great quote, and that is one of the reasons I think Kobe was as great as he was and is the legend that he is now and always will be.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say is yesterday I was listening to some NBA broadcasts. They all felt the passing of Kobe Bryant. A bunch of teams took 24-second violations, 8-second backcourt.
That was awesome.
It's really awesome. But I heard a broadcaster. He said there's a little sports comic that came out some years ago, and it was these two people, and it was a baseball comic, and it was the day after the passing of a famous baseball player, and they said, "I just don't feel like playing ball today." And I think that's how a lot of the players felt yesterday. And I think that's how a lot of us feel going into this week. I just don't feel like doing it.
Absolutely, Brian. Couldn't agree more. All right, well, we're going to move on to our second topic of the day. We're going to try to lighten the mood a little bit here. We're going to get into some World Series talk here. Should the MLB strip World Series titles from teams amid the allegations and the scandals that are hitting the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox? We asked, should the MLB consider stripping World Series titles from those teams? Brian, what do you think?
I think, do the Astros and Red Sox deserve a World Series title? Probably not. I don't think that type of cheating should be tolerated in the league. But does that mean the Dodgers are the World Series champs? Absolutely not. Because who's to say the Dodgers would have won the World Series against the Astros or the Red Sox or the Yankees or any of the other teams that were playing in the American League playoffs that year if the Astros and to some extent the Red Sox were not cheating and weren't stealing signs and stuff. So I think certainly I don't think the Dodgers should get awarded those 2 World Series, but I could see a scenario where you say nobody deserves those World Series, because it's unfair to say another team won it, but it's also unfair to say, well, the Astros or the Red Sox are the World Series champs these years, even though they cheated and used they're banging trash cans, they're stealing signs and stuff.
I agree with you 100%, Brian. I think that maybe the Astros don't deserve it, but the Dodgers didn't earn it. Mm-hmm. And even if the commissioner decides to say, hey, LA, you deserve this World Series, it's not the World Series championship. It's not the ring that the Dodgers want. It's the Astros and the Red Sox won. It's over. It happened. And I think having that asterisk next to that World Series title and having that shame and embarrassment that is going to label your team forever should be enough. Should be enough for the MLB, and it should be enough for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that's going to tarnish them forever. And so instead of being labeled as one of the greatest teams of all time in that few years worth of span, they're going to be labeled as the most scandalous team since the 1919 White Sox.
Very true. Personally, I think the players got off easy in this
100%.
case. Obviously the manager of the Astros and the GM got fired. Alex Cora lost his job with the Red Sox, and the only player that saw repercussions is Carlos Beltran, and he lost his job with the Mets, unfortunately. But all the active players that are still playing, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, all of these players on the Astros especially that knew about these things happening, and they're going to face no repercussions other than the team got a fine, you lost a couple of draft picks, and you have a new manager.
Still getting paid millions of dollars every year to play baseball. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to say that the Astros didn't get off easy in this case, in my opinion at least. And whether or not, the asterisks by their title I think is enough, because you'd much rather lose as an honest player than win as a cheater. And yeah.
Yeah, any self-respecting athlete or team, I think, would rather earn their championship honorably than win it with cheating, And maybe the Houston Astros aren't that team. Maybe Jose Altuve is not that kind of guy to want to pass any judgment. But I think that's the point to remember, is that the LA Dodgers, I don't think they didn't earn the World Series. The Astros and the Red Sox won. It's over. Just let it go. Live with the asterisk and live with that label.
Yeah. Well, that'll get us into our next topic about some winning here. Super Bowl's coming up here. The Chiefs are playing the 49ers. And the question becomes, can the 49ers stop Patrick Mahomes and the high-powered Chiefs offense? What do you think?
Well, let me tell you something, Brian. I think the 49ers are more than capable of rising to the occasion, as we have seen them do all year. And let me tell you something. The 49ers have not scored less than 20 points more than once this season. There's only been 4 times they scored less than 24 points. Okay, so a lot of people like to raise doubt about Jimmy Garoppolo being an adequate quarterback. And the problem isn't Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers are as well balanced as a team as we have ever seen, I think. When you look at the defense and when you look at the offense, what the offense has been able to do, Jimmy Garoppolo, just like his team, can rise to the occasion. As we saw in December, when he put big numbers up against the New Orleans Saints and when he put big numbers up against the Seattle Seahawks. He threw for 4 touchdowns against the Saints and over 300 yards and had almost nearly 300 yards and an 81% completion percentage against the Seahawks. And so you see that if you look deeper into the numbers, that Jimmy Garoppolo is more than what people give him credit for. Listen to this. San Francisco is second in the NFL in total points scored, okay? 4th in total yards and 2nd in total rushing yards. The San Francisco 49er defense does not get enough credit for what they have done this season.
See, I'll have to disagree with you. I think Patrick Mahomes, the defending MVP, of course, Lamar Jackson deserves to get MVP this year, but Patrick Mahomes did not have just a slump season. He was out a couple games with the injury, but he's still a phenomenal quarterback. We saw when the Chiefs played the Texans in the playoffs here, the Chiefs looked like they spotted the Texans 24 points in the playoffs, and then they just went off. So I think the Chiefs' offense is hotter than anybody else in the league right now. And I think there'll be some X factors on the Chiefs. First of all, Mecole Hardman is one of the best returners in the league. He got voted into the Pro Bowl. Obviously, he didn't play, but lightning fast. He makes Tyreek Hill look just like an average runner. 20.7 yards per catch, plus his returning skills make him a factor, as well as Frank Clark on the defensive side. I think he has the capability to stop that 49ers run that has been tearing apart teams so far in the playoffs.
Okay, Brian, well, here's one thing I'm going to tell you, is that the 49ers haven't even been challenged to this point in the playoffs, and I think they've played significantly better teams than the Chiefs haven't played. The Chiefs got Tennessee and Houston, respectable teams, but nothing like Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers, okay, and nothing like the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, so listen to this. San Francisco, not only in the 2019 season, averaged more points a game at 29, nearly 30 points per game, only gave up about 15 points per game. So they're scoring twice as many points as they're giving up. Kansas City, on the other hand, scores 28 points a game and gives up about 27. It's a wonder they're not even a 500 team. Man, they could be losing half their games. And so I think when we look historically, and especially in the Super Bowl, when we look at that best offense playing the best defense usually wins out. And when you got a team like San Francisco who can do it on both ends of the field, on offense and defense, I think the KC Chiefs do not know what is coming.
Here's what I think, Matt. I think that the Chiefs' downfall last year was the defense. Admittedly, they lost on a questionable offsides call. It was offsides against the Patriots. Towards the end of the game, AFC Championship, they should have made it to the Super Bowl. But then again, the Saints should have made it to the Super Bowl too. So, but I think the Chiefs have Travis Kelce, probably the best tight end in the league. And we all remember when his brother, Jason Kelce, in the Eagles Super Bowl speech, he said, "Hungry dogs run faster." And I think the Chiefs are hungrier.
I don't know. I think Jimmy Garoppolo built a big appetite there in New England, serving as the backup to Tom Brady. He's 27 years old. He's no young pup, Brian. He is a chicken ready to attack. A fresh chicken.
I don't know. I think we saw, to go back to the teams that the Chiefs had to play, the Titans had the hottest runner over a 2-game span in the playoffs in Derrick Henry, and the Chiefs shut him down. And that's what the 49ers have been banking on, that rushing game, and then Jimmy Garoppolo supplements it. So I think once the Chiefs stuff that running game, I think the Chiefs will have a good shot, or even just the Chiefs can play in a shootout with anybody.
That's fair. But luckily for the 49ers, they don't have to rely on their running game. They have a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill.
I don't know. Tannehill was looking good to me.
What?
It's looking good to me, but we'll see.
We will see. We'll see.
You want to put a bet on it?
Let's put a bet on it.
The usual?
The usual. Lemon meringue pie bet.
Lemon meringue. All right.
All right, you're taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the 49ers.
That's right.
It's on. Tune in for that.
Next week. All right, so that brings us to our last topic of the day. A couple weeks ago, the LSU Tigers won the national championship to finish the season 15-0. Are they the best team we've ever seen in college football, or where do they rank in that?
I think they are, Brian. I think they're definitely the best team that I've ever seen in all my years of watching college football. I've never seen a team so dominant, especially when Joe Burrow gets into a zone and he gets into a rhythm. He just looks literally unstoppable. He looks like we're playing Madden NFL out there. Man, and it's like the whole season it was LSU or Ohio State at the top, and then we see Ohio State go down to Clemson in the semifinal game, and then we see Clemson go down to LSU. LSU has been battle tested all season. It wasn't just like they were undefeated. They went the regular season undefeated and then had a good game in the national championship. They were playing top teams the whole season, and they worked all of them. They beat the titan of college football, Nick Saban, and the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they beat all these great teams, and nobody seemed to have an answer for Joe Burrow and the Tigers. And I think the only teams that come close to their level of domination, and I think that's what LSU had, was domination, is 1971 Nebraska and 1972 USC teams. But I don't think that we've ever seen a team so dominant, Brian.
I agree. They are easily top 5 for me. I can't say they're number 1. And you're talking about teams they beat. They beat Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn, and Texas all this season, all pretty handily. Alabama was the closest of those games, I think. Mm-hmm. And LSU looked pretty confident in that game.
They still won by double digits.
Yeah. They beat Oklahoma by they put up 60 on Oklahoma, a national semifinals team, and they beat Clemson pretty handily as well in the national championship. Joe Burrow, 60 touchdowns over the season. They had a phenomenal season this year. But two teams that I'd like to talk about. First is the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. They had 17 first-round picks on that roster, including Ed Reed, Jeremy Shockey, Andre Johnson, Sean Taylor, Willis McGahee, Kellen Winslow. And you know who else they had on the team? Frank Gore. And he is the third leading rusher all-time in the NFL. And they won their games by an average score of 42.7 to 9.5. They were dominant as well. And the other team I'd like to mention is the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers. They had Tommy Frazier and Amon Green. Not as many huge names that went to the NFL. They only played one game that didn't finish in a score of more than 21 that they won by. They won by 14 against Washington State, and they had a combined 196 to 73 score over the four top 10 teams they played, and they won 62 to 24 in the national championship. Those two teams looked dominant, but so did LSU. It's tough to say, especially comparing eras, 1995, 2001, 2020. It's hard to say where these teams would come out, but Joe Burrow looked incredible on that LSU team.
Absolutely. I mean, Joe Burrow broke year records that have been held in place for years and years and years. I've never seen a player that was at his level of dominance and that controlled the game like he did and is as adaptable as he was. I think, and you know what, let me tell you something, I think we're about to enter a ridiculous era of NFL quarterbacks, because I think that Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes are going to have some wild rivalries if they're meeting frequently in the NFL. I think there is so much talent at the QB position in the world right now that I think the future is so bright for NFL quarterbacks.
You know what's interesting to me? Assuming Joe Burrow goes number 1 to the Bengals, he'll play Lamar Jackson twice a year. And Joe Burrow is older than Lamar Jackson, believe it or not. So he'll be won't be the youngest quarterback in that division, assuming he goes number 1 to the Bengals. But my only thing against the LSU Tigers is they played Clemson in the national championship, who didn't have a lot of tests this year. And I think seeing them actually beat Ohio State would have solidified it more for me, because Clemson's a hell of a team, obviously. Trevor Lawrence beat Alabama last year in the national championship, and they hadn't lost. They had won 23 straight games or something like that going into this year's national championship. But it also would have been cool to see Joe Burrow play Ohio State, because he was a backup of Ohio State before he went to LSU, and that would have been fun sight to see.
Yeah, that's the only regret for me over the college football season. I think that's the only thing left we needed to see out of the LSU Tigers is a win over Ohio State. But we'll see what happens to Joe Burrow next year in the NFL and LSU next season, if they can be as dominant as they were this year.
We'll see. All right, that moves us into our shout-out. And today we felt that there's only one shout-out to give. That's to Kobe Bryant. You know, it's going to be a tough couple of weeks here. It's tough to see a legend like that go. Did so much in the community, so much for his family, so much for the game of basketball.
So much for even people not fans of basketball, not fans of the NBA. He's a man to look up to, a role model, great father, friend, athlete, and so much more. That's going to be it for us today on this first episode of Season 3 of Crossing the Line. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.